She moved quietly through the briefing room, balancing a tray of steaming coffee mugs as the commanders reviewed their mission files. To them, she was just an assistant assigned to logistics for the day, a young woman with calm eyes, clipped hair, and a silence that blended into the room. No one knew her name. No one cared to ask. She was invisible, just part of the background. But what they didn't know is that she had once been the sharpest edge of the sky. As she placed a cup in front of one of the senior officers, he barely looked up. "Thanks," he muttered, clicking through his tablet, eyes fixed on the map. She nodded gently and moved on. Another officer whispered, "These new assistants don't know how to walk quietly," thinking she didn't hear, but she did. She heard everything. A year ago, none of these men would have dared speak that way in her presence. But they didn't recognize her. Not today. Not without the flight suit. Not without the helmet. Not without her call sign stitched across her chest like fire. She set down the last cup and stepped back to the wall. Blending into the shadows, that's when the door opened. Every spine straightened. The Admiral walked in. His posture was steel, his eyes sharp enough to slice the tension. And the room fell completely silent as he placed his cap on the table. Without sitting, he scanned the officers, his expression unreadable. Then his gaze drifted. To her, she didn't flinch. She didn't lower her eyes. For the first time that morning, someone wasn't looking through her. He was looking at her. Asterisk. And then he said it. Her call sign. Loud, clear, sharp enough to crack the walls. Phoenix. Front and center. The room froze. Every man who just ignored her, underestimated her, or talked over her, suddenly stopped breathing. Their eyes widened. Their minds scrambled. Their pride shattered. The tray in her hands was no longer just a tray. It was a symbol of how deeply they had misjudged her. She stepped forward slowly, her boots tapping the floor with the same rhythm she once used walking toward her jet. She stopped in front of the Admiral, standing tall, steady, unshakable. "Sir," she said, her voice calm, strong, familiar. The Admiral nodded. "Good to have you back." A murmur rippled through the room. "Back? Back from where? Back from what?" He turned to the stunned officers and said, "For those of you who don't know, Phoenix led the Nightfire Squadron. She flew 57 missions, including the one that saved half of you sitting here today." The officers looked like statues carved from shock. And, the Admiral continued, "When her jet took a missile hit last year, she didn't eject. She landed it on one wing. That's why she's alive. That's why you are alive." She didn't smile. She didn't boast. She didn't need to. Her silence was louder than their pride. The Admiral stepped aside, motioning toward her. "She will now lead this briefing." For the first time, every eye in the room followed her, not because she was walking, but because she was leading. She took the Admiral's place at the front, set down her notes, and lifted her chin. One officer whispered, barely audible, "She's Phoenix." Her eyes cut to him, not cold, not angry, but powerful. "Yes," she said, "and today, gentlemen, you're flying with me, so listen carefully." The room straightened instantly. She tapped the screen to reveal the mission. Map. Her voice carried a calm authority that only comes from surviving what others fear. "You assumed I was just here to serve coffee," she said quietly. "But that's the problem with assumptions. They blind you." She paused. In the sky, assumptions get people killed. The lesson sank into the room like iron dropping into water. She walked slowly past them, each step reminding them that real power is not loud. It is not arrogant. It does not need a title or uniform to be recognized. Real power stands tall, even when unseen. "For the past year," she continued, "I recovered from injuries that doctors said would end my flying career. I trained every day. I learned to walk again, to breathe again, to trust my body. And now, I'm here." She looked at the map. "This mission is critical. You will follow my lead, and you will do it with discipline." No one questioned her. No one blinked. No ego. No resistance. Respect had finally entered the room, not because she demanded it, but because she earned it long before they ever met her. She finished the briefing with precision, confidence, and unshakable.com. When she concluded, the Admiral stepped up again. "This," he said, pointing toward her, "is what leadership looks like. Not rank, not noise, not pride, purpose, skill, and resilience." One by one, the officers stood, not because they were ordered, but because they felt compelled to. A silent salute of respect. She nodded and walked toward the door. But before leaving, she turned back and said, "Never underestimate the quiet faces in the room. You don't know their battles, you don't know their victories, and one day, you might need them to save your life." She walked out. And for the first time since sunrise, the entire room breathed again. People remember the loud ones, the confident ones, the boastful ones, but they forget that sometimes the greatest warrior is the one who walks in the room unnoticed. Until the moment her name, her true name, is spoken, and everything changes.